Peace to you. I hope this finds you well. I started my morning off unusually, not unusual in that I was on TikTok, but the conversation that I was led into was just, the tone of it was just so wonderful and so giving and so accepting and so inclusive. And I just really enjoyed it. And curiously, it was a conversation between two people, a female and a male. Yes? Their full names, I'm not going to tag them, but Style was the female and Happiness was the male. So I wandered into a conversation between Style and Happiness. And it was just so lovely. The man was hesitant in admitting, but did admit that even though he's been a Muslim his whole life, he had never read the Quran. And the female Style was encouraging him along the way to the Quran. Then another individual came into it, and it sort of broke up the tone. I left. I had actually requested to go up on the panel, which I was allowed to, because I wanted to be part of it. And but as often happens, the tone shifted at that one point, and I had to leave. But Style and Happiness. See, I've been thinking about this. The fellow whose name was Happiness, is whatever that's called, he's Happiness. He was really following the style of things, guys, because she asked Styles asked Happiness, how did you learn to pray? And he said, my father taught me. And she said, well, within the Quran, it says, do not follow the ways of your fathers, your forefathers, yes? The Quran is the answer. Yeah? So it's just this wonderful dynamic that I had going on in my head for while I made my coffee and after I left the panel discussion. But I was considering this, isn't it wonderful that God made us all absolutely alike? Isn't it wonderful that we're all exactly alike? We all have the same likes. We all have the same fears. We're all alike. Isn't that wonderful? God made us that way? No. Actually, the wonderfulness of the way God made us is told to us in the Quran. He made us different so that we can learn from one another. And when I first went into the conversation this morning, that's what I heard. There was a learning. The fellow Happiness came with the humility about his faith and it seemed like a sincere desire to find the right way. And the woman Styles was offering that way. And that way is the Quran, yeah? It is the Quran. But here's a point that occurred to me a little later on. I think that, because as that conversation eroded, I think that the Word of God should be considered in much the same way that we as a society consider art. I'm not saying that the Word of God is art. Well, it may in fact be art. But this is what I was considering, because as I listened to the conversation erode, I started hearing a lot of the Quran says this, and this is what this means. I don't think, like with art, there are certain things, certain pictures, sculptures, when I see them, I connect with them. There's something about them. I don't know anything about art, but if you were to share with someone who knew something about art, I may be criticized for it. No, that's not what it means. I think the Word of God should be considered like a work of art. allow the individual to connect with it, allow the individual to find that message. There, something happens. You know it. Even you're out in nature and you see something, you connect. There is this very strong. There's a moment, and I think we who have certain beliefs may have a tendency to tell others who don't have the same beliefs that they're wrong. And that may not be the case at all. They may not be wrong. And I know I'm running long here, but I was also thinking of this story. I think it's in the cave, I'm not sure, but the story of Moses. And he goes out traveling, and then a salted fish, and it disappears into water. And then he comes back and he meets this person who is has great knowledge. And this person tells Moses, you don't have the patience to travel with me. You know the story, right? Well, if you don't know it, you should look it up. But within that story, it shows how one's perception of the moment may not actually be the truth of the moment. Do you know what I mean? Moses was seeing things, if you know the story, he was seeing this and this and this. He's seeing things differently and questioning the fellow. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? I encourage you to read the story. But to me, what that speaks to me is we should always be open to the messages, because the signs are all around us in every moment and every day if we open ourselves to it. Styles and happiness. Peace.